Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Today we're going to talk about irrational advocacy. It's the absurd science of brand love. We all want our brands to be loved. We want to have that place in their heart. And it is something that is not easily attained. What will it take for your customers to have a passion for your brand? Will your customers camp out for your next product launch? Will your fans fly your colors? What causes irrational advocacy? Raving fans don't start by dressing like a cow. Irrational advocacy and rational consumer behavior starts with irrational business behavior. Take Chic-fil-a, for example, closed on Sunday. That is not a rational business behavior. That is irrational. It makes a statement. It says something matters to them. And what we found about passion brands, and we did massive studies on this, passion brands don't build community. They build cults, countercultures, and crusades. There's something about cult followings. They are seldom born of sound business decisions. In fact, quite the opposite. The products we love beyond reason tend to come from illogical strategy. Recently wrote a book, and I spoke to you guys, I think, a couple of years ago on this, Surfing the Black Wave. The black wave is this consumer shift, a change. We're going through a black wave right now with the COVID-19 shift. Every time a shift takes place in culture, there's a response to that shift. And we are not going to create the shift. We're not going to create the consumer wave. We simply ride it. So we did a study to find out who are these irrationally connected brands. Not a lot of surprises, all right? Apple, Nike, Amazon, we talk about these brands all the time. What is it about these brands? What is it that causes them to rise up? And when you look at the rankings, there's something about the categories. The highest ranked tech brand was Apple, and the second highest tech brand was Samsung at number 5, not far behind. Highest ranked shoe was number 2. Second highest ranked shoe was Adidas at number 6. Now, if you go down to mortgage brands, like 91, and then the second highest mortgage brand was 141. So when you look at the study, why is it certain categories rise up? Is it that those categories are predestined? Or is it possible there are leaders? There are those who decide that a shoe is something emotional, and they set the bar that a shoe has some value above and beyond the materials it's made of. And there are 3 steps to get into that irrational advocacy. And we're going to talk about all 3 today. Number 1, primal attraction. Simple concept. All mental events, emotional and otherwise, are generated as predictions. Predictions, not reactions. Anticipating needs and attempting to meet those needs before they arise. This process is called allostasis. So to put it simply, your brain, 60 to 80% of your brain effort is working on what is going to happen next. It's predicting things. Emotional triggers in your brain are saying, that person looks like someone I trust. That person does not look like. For example, let's say you just got COVID-19, you've been told you need to pick a doctor, and you've got 5 minutes to choose one of these. Quick, which doctor are you going to pick? Now, there's many things your brain starts doing. We have models in our brains. We look at the eyes. Which one has the eyes that says, that's the doctor I want? Then we look at the mouth. What is it in our brain that says there's something about the mouth that tells me that's a better doctor for me? Well, it turns out that it's an emotional trigger in our brain. The predictive analytics in our brain are saying, I believe in that doctor on the right because he had a trustworthy face. We are 75% emotional and 25% analytical. For example, we are more likely to choose a doctor on emotional behaviors than we are on any kind of resume or bio or capabilities of that doctor. And when we make emotional decisions, they influence advocacy, preference, willingness to pay a premium, and intent. So emotions are a big deal. Typically, though, our ad studies, commercial brand studies are pretty much an impact, no impact, binary type study. So we never really get the emotional triggers studied at the level we'd like to. And the consumer's brain is tied into 2 different sides of it. The analytical side of your brain, which is saying, I need to know you have the competency. You have the ability to get the job done. But the right side of the brain is saying, I need to know you have the emotional character. Not only do I have to believe you have the ability, but you have the will to carry through. On the left side of the brain, we're looking at features and benefits. For example, board certified doctors with 20 years of experience, accepts most insurance. All those things add up as value. But it's only about 30% of the value of our brain equation. On the right side of our brain, the 70% is about your values and your vision. A doctor who simply has a vision to cure COVID-19 for every patient he serves is a doctor who's more likely to get preference, to get advocacy, to get irrational kinds of connections. That doctor has proven nothing other than said, I want to. And that was enough to get a consumer excited about that doctor. Now there's this system we use for understanding energies of emotional connection. And it's a little bit complicated, so I won't go deep into it, but we call it the engagement matrix. In the engagement matrix, we have these axes. We have shame versus pride, fear versus joy. And all of these triggers have influence on purchasing products or even choosing a president. For example, we use fear to get you to choose the other guy. That's kind of how we do that in politics. But with brands, we tend to want to use love, joy, pride, these types of things to get us to buy products. And we have these relationships, the consumer brand relationship, the esteemed hero, the best friend, the committed partner. And then we have 24 different emotional connections, from interested, impressed, to amazed. That is something we want. That's on the highest end on the left side over there, toward a celebrated innovator. So when we studied these brands, we started finding out certain brands skewed in different dimensions. For example, Amazon had a strong celebrated innovator factor. People were impressed with Amazon. Nike brought a sense of pride, the esteemed hero. Disney, on the other hand, had a strong sense of nostalgia. This was an emotional connection to what I call my best friend. Where Meijer was in the top 20. It wasn't in the top 4, but I thought it was interesting because it was a local brand, and within our region, it showed up as a top 20. And that stood out to me. I said, what is it about Meijer? Well, it turns out there's an emotion called loyalty, and that loyalty comes in the form of little statements like this. This is a verbatim. I'm an M-Perk fanatic. People want their loyalty rewards. They want to be connected to that brand in the long term. That's your committed partner. So let's talk about the winner. We've heard about Apple every which way, but I want to talk about Apple from a very different perspective, from a perspective of the cult that it is. All right, Steve Jobs, he wore no shoes, he took no showers, he had a Buddhist belief that if you took showers, you were violating some Buddhist belief system. He was a complete cult leader, all right, in every form of the word. Now, he was not a great Buddhist, but he claimed to be a Buddhist. And so he took his religious belief systems from Buddha. Let's take something from Buddha, for example. Greater happiness comes from simplicity than with complexity. So Steve Jobs would have no furniture in his house. He would wear no shoes again. He would go into simple places in his brain to help understand things. And so then he would take those concepts, employ them into his brand, the cult of design at Apple. This is their specific value at the time when Steve Jobs ran the business. We believe we're on the face of the earth to make great products with simple design, ownership, and a significant contribution. And what was that significant contribution? They got rid of the beige clutter on our desk and brought us something beautiful. It wasn't more powerful, it wasn't faster, it was just simply beautiful and interesting. So simplicity evolved as a concept through Apple. Simple equals pure, beauty equals good. Your mind builds these models and says, I have a moral conscious judgment on that computer simply by the way it looks. So this is a statement he would say. He modeled much of his advertising and his brand development around Nike. Some don't know that. He says, but one of the best examples in the world is Nike. It's just a shoe. And yet, you think of Nike, you feel something different than a shoe company. In their ads, as you know, they don't ever talk about their products. They don't ever tell you about their air soles or why they're better than Reebok's air soles. What does Nike do in their advertising? They honor great athletes and they honor great athletics. That's who they are. That's what they're all about. So Nike is out there saying, you can dream, you can go, you can do. And so Apple says, we'll do the same thing. He didn't have all the psychological babble around it. He just simply said, let's do what Nike does. And so he did. And when we saw the commercial that came on and got mimicked and got cliched and got destroyed over the last 2 months. The first time we saw it, it was powerful. Creativity goes on. It was not about Apple's capabilities. It was about your capabilities. It was about the hero in our story, the customer.
Pandemic has the possibility of bringing us together in ways none of us would have been able to predict or expect.
8, 7, 8.
I'm so small, said the mole. Yes, said the boy, but you make a huge difference.
Emotion. Take that in. Feel what you're feeling. That's the power of moral consequence. Not simply look at my computer, look what it can do. Look how powerful it is. It said, look how great you are. Look at what a difference we can make in the world. That's the power of emotion. Cult leaders don't preach and then pass their plate. They don't come after and say, now on sale this week for a small price of $50 a month. They don't come through with the promotion after that. They leave it. They just simply say, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. That's how you build a cult. And then cults have sacraments. You get the box. And this is a ceremony, opening the box. Remember the apple, your first apple box. And you get the stickers. And the sticker goes on your car. It's just your first sticker. We're starting small. We're just kind of getting to know each other. But then we grow a family of them. And then it takes over. And suddenly we become what we know as an irrational advocate. Number 2, how do you become a rational advocate? Through membership contribution. Membership contribution. Co-identity brings with shared isms, adorning symbols, gestures of love, ceremony, congregations, countercultures, and rituals. Remember the members only jacket? I had one. It was white. It wasn't like this, but I joined the club. We were members only, those who had the jacket. We didn't know what we were membership of, but we had the jacket and we were in the team. Because every generation has a jacket. My parents had a jacket as well, and it had value and it meant something to them. Adorning symbols start getting on these jackets, these symbols of who we are, and these adorning symbols represent our values. But ultimately, after a Tom Cruise movie, for example, Navy recruitment increased 500% after Top Gun. I think Ray-Ban sales went up 1,200%. These were values that culture wanted. There was a generation that said, I identify with the values of that program. I want to join. So adorning symbols come throughout the generations, maybe a leather jacket. This was an older generation, and it's now evolved into the symbol of a vehicle, a motorcycle. And then the symbol becomes the hog groups, and it becomes the tattoos on the back of your head. The second ranked tattoo of any tattoo is Harley-Davidson logo. And then, of course, you have your ceremony, and you have your Harley Hogs groups, which are beginning to age, by the way. And that's important because I want to talk about what happens to a brand if you don't do more branding. People ask, I was in a meeting not long ago, and this is what people who should really know better, but they said, why do we need branding? We have plenty of customers. Why are we going to grow the brand? Because we already can't handle the customers we have. That was Harley's problem. They had too many customers. They could not sell the vehicles fast enough because they had so much activity from the customer. So they said, why bother advertising? Well, if you took the mindset and you said, let's not mow our lawn until the neighbors come over, what happens to your lawn? Over time, the brand starts reducing, and today the brand has reduced significantly over just the recent years. When you don't mow the lawn, eventually your brand starts to suffer because you can't at the last minute decide, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to race today and win that race. You've got to run the race every day. It's got to be a part of who you are. Number 3, irrational advocacy. How do we get to irrational advocacy? This is the third and final stage. Achieving unity. Let me say those first 2 words again. Achieving unity with well-articulated values and vision. The community comes to resonance for the cause. Finally compelled to believe the interest of the group is fused with self-interest. Members transcend their needs and become morally obligated as co-creators of the movement. Can a brand inspire a crusade? This famous painting of Peter is beautiful, but not more beautiful than the story. As the story goes, Peter was the one who rejected. He said, I will not follow this leader to the cross, and then later regretted it so badly that when he was headed toward his own crucifixion, he said, how dare you try to hang me like my Christ? I would rather you hang me upside down so that I can stand for my brand. The brand that now is the #1 selling book every year, the brand that has more followers than any brand of all time. What is a crusade, and what causes the 11 out of the 12 followers of this brand to die for their cause? Maslow would say the main thing is your physical needs, that you look at your base as physical needs and you're working towards selfish ends. You're working toward this self-actualization. And so the concept there was self is greater than values. Myself is greater than any value out there in most mindsets of consumer marketing. This is a marketing fallacy, and Maslow recognized it in his later years because he said, why would a military platoon member jump on a grenade for his friends if his physical needs were the most important? Why would anyone commit suicides if physical needs was the main thing? So Maslow flipped his chart and he said, selfless purpose is the highest value. That is the base need of all mankind, is that we need a reason to live. Values become greater than self when you flip the pyramid. And this is when a crusade takes place. So this is an example, selfless purpose. In World War II, we had a belief. People believed in this country. It was a season of unity in America, and we had a cause. And in that cause, they would go out on the field. Instead of saluting the leader, they'd give this little peace symbol. That way it doesn't give away who the sergeant, who the captain, who the leader of the platoon was, so they wouldn't get shot. It was a matter of honor. And so this peace symbol started happening as the Jeeps would drive by, who you would assume would have the local community leader in it. To this day, this symbol of peace, this symbol of unity, this symbol of honor is a gesture of love among Jeep drivers. And the Jeep drivers, they took this and they started owning this concept and evolved it into the beach culture, into the off-road culture, and congregations and rituals were born. And then selfless transcendence and resonance and fusion and all those psychological things start happening. But let's be honest, guys, it's just simply psychobabble about the word we understand very well. Love. Love takes place. And this is what love brands are all about. This is my love. This is my Jeep. I spent more than a year getting everything I wanted on it. And over the last couple of years, I keep changing it. It never looks the same. As a matter of fact, it still doesn't look like this because I changed it again a couple of weeks ago. When you love your product, you put extra effort into it. And when you have a product that you've built with Jeep, Jeep built the foundation, but I built the 37-inch wheels. I put on the LED lights and the 9,000-pound winch. Those items are my items that I've invested. I've added value into the brand, and therefore the brand has more value to me. Co-creation bakes in love. Think about a mud pie and how that mud pie is more than the product we make.